So, it's late in the day, and you're really courageous, still active, and we thought that what can be better to talk about in a final session when you start to get a bit tired, but talk about money. So we'll try to do that. We've heard about the issue of financing here today in the presentations. We heard it just now in the final session also, that there is no money, for example, in the Baltic Sea strategy, but we have to use the financial instruments we have in the region. And the question is if they will, in the next program period that we are getting close to, starting next year, if they will accommodate the ambitions that we've heard here today, the great willingness to cooperate. The new programs are prepared right now, so everything you will hear now will be preliminary, because the decision remains to be taken. We also know that innovation will be a major theme in many, many of these programs. They are already today, but most probably there will be even more dedicated to innovation. We also know that transnational cooperation or cooperation will also be more prevalent in the next program period, because now the macro-regional strategies are included in the regulations governing the next program period and the EU programs, where it says that all relevant EU programs should contribute to the implementation of these macro-regional strategies. So not only the programs, for example, financing BSR Stars here today, the Baltic Sea Region program, but all programs, also regional programs. So we'll try to have a discussion here about both the ambitions and what might come out in the program starting next year. I would like to start with Region Skåne. Welcome, Deputy Governor Pontus Lindberg, Daniel Kronman, EU Project Officer from the Brussels office, and Marek Brazor from the European Commission. Perhaps you can join them there, so you three take part in the first discussion here. I would like to ask you, Region Skåne, as an example of a region here, you're the host as well. The ambitions you've heard here today during the day, coming out of projects like this, like the StarDust, would you say it's representative that the ambitions for cooperation are higher for the next program period?
Yes, I would say that the ambition is higher, and I also would say that it's probably necessary that they are higher. When we have been moving forward to the next EU program period, we early on decided that we would like to take lead in some part of the programming work, that it is for us crucial that we start as soon as possible, that we also get the smooth transition from this program period into the next one, and we also feel that it's necessary to focus on innovation, and I think that we so far has managed to keep the focus on innovation.
You have a special position here because you're a politician. You also have an experience as a decision maker in the region, also during this program period. Would you say that this sort of ambition for more international cooperation is general among the political decision makers? Is it easy to convince about these issues?
Well, from a Swedish perspective, I think that when we speak with our regions or parts of Sweden, there is a very strong concentration on the ambition to really use innovation now and to have a way of focusing more on innovation, growth, to be able to tackle some problems on the labor market and also make a better push in the industry sector, that we get more jobs from all the things that we invest. When it comes to our cooperation in the Interreg, in the work with the coming Interreg 5 RQS program, we have, of course, with our Danish friends on the other side of Öresund Strait, we have a very joint vision of what we would like to do. We have a day-to-day cooperation with them on practical level, but also when it comes to scientific cooperation. But I see that when it comes from other parts of Denmark, they have the same type of ambition, and also the parts of Norway which we are cooperating with in this EU program, that is a little bit out of the box, but they are contributing with their own money, so why not? And they are also very much the same type of ambition, I would like to say. So I think there is a joint focus on that. We need to be able in Europe to go from a tradition of investing a lot of money into research and development to really be more innovative and creative new product and services, because that is one of our really problems in Europe, that we invest a lot of money in research and development. We have done that over decades, especially countries like Sweden, but we don't really get the real output from all this investment.
If we look specifically on the financial instruments that you control, then in the region, you have a cross-border program with Denmark and Norway, but you also have the regional program. And as I mentioned, there are better opportunities now to use also them for cooperation. How do you think about that opportunity?
Yeah. The problem is that it's rather easy in theory, but I think in practice this will be a rather bit difficult, regretfully. But I think we have to go in this direction. I think we should have more programs that actually starts perhaps on a very little scale, and then they transform into something else that then perhaps end up as a transregional project. I think that is the way actually of fostering innovation and cross-border cooperation. And there is more to do, but I think that we are on the right track, and we are looking with very high hopes on this possibility of this cooperation component, that you can actually use money beyond the normal region, because I think that is one of the problems, that we tend to be stuck in our region with our usual cooperation partners, because we have cooperated with them before, and that's rather easy. We know them reasonably well, but I think that we really have to think a little bit outside the box and really go for the best possible cooperation partner, because the competition out there is so tough today that we really have to do that.
Perhaps then we can perhaps turn to you, Daniel. Because you have more or less got in more to details when it comes to how to use the programs.
Yes.
And I know that you want to show a picture here. Perhaps we can
get to
have
that
help.
in a minute.
That's
correct, and I work for Region Skåne as well from our Brussels office, so I can give a Skåne-Brussels perspective on this. And first I could say it's not only about financial instruments, it's about instruments to finance our ambitions. And I would also like to emphasize what Pontus has said, that the ambitions are higher for the next period, and we can hear that as well in Brussels from the commissions, that the ambitions are higher, and that gives us more possibilities. And yeah, I'll get to that in a moment. And from our perspective, the discussions in EU on the smart specialization strategies has resulted in new discussions regionally, how to focus even more on how to combine financing. And it's not only about smart specialization, it's also about discussions on smart financing, how to optimally use financing possibilities there are widespread. And that's why I'd like to show to you just how we are thinking, how do we work from our Skåne Brussels perspective when analyzing how to use this kind of smart financing. And what we see on this perspective is a general outline on synergies of different funding sources. And first from the bottom is an axis, is kind of a very general view. It's axis from research, from the idea to market, and the funding source of FP7 from the previous period, and the new Horizon 2020, which goes closer to the market than before. And the synergies towards the structural funds, we sketch on it like you use the structural funds for strengthening the needs of your regions in this chain. And from our perspective, we say that structural funds is about reaching excellence, while Horizon 2020 is about using excellence to create impact. So, and you can continue these lines with different sources of financing. You can add on the rural development funds and the different sector programs, COSME and so on. So one part of it is the different funding sources, and the other one, if we can click for the next one. No.
No. Let's see, we only had one there. What is the
Well, there you go. It's about the funding sources and then also about the funding forms.
Okay.
You have the different kind of forms that you can use. It's the grants, and which is traditionally the big parts of the different funding sources, but the new instruments that also can be used even more, especially in Horizon 2020, are the prizes and the financial instruments, which are revolving funds, loans, the debt facility and the equity facility in Horizon 2020, and also about public procurement. So this is the way we try to look at it, to use different kinds of, see synergies between different kinds of sources and how to use the different kinds of forms. And then you have the third dimension, kind of what we discussed during lunchtime here, that on top of this you have the geography, and here, because the structural funds are different in each region, you emphasize differently on this axis in different regions. And here we have the cooperation component that is possible, that you are allowed to use 15% of your structural funds outside the program geography. And here's where we can combine the different geographies, where it's possible to choose Swedish regional structural funds in BSR collaboration, which is a very important part, I think, if we talk BSR collaboration and synergies between funds.
Thank you very much. Can I turn to you, Marek, European Commission? You hear here about quite advanced thinking about cooperation as a part of the regional development and the use of funds. Is it your impression that this is representative?
Let me just tell you the truth. At the level of declarations, it's true, but I think the issue is in implementation, in making it happen, to have the governance system where you have agora, people exchanging ideas, working together, where you can really come up with new innovations. Making it happen, this is a challenge for administration. And here we come with smart specialization again, because this is about the process and the real collaboration. And I will tell you now, I mentioned at the day in the morning that we are in the process of analyzing partnership agreements and operational programs, even if though we didn't receive the formal submissions, because there's no the regulations are not adopted, but it's informal dialogue between us and the member states. And we have received by now 15 partnership agreements and some operational programs. And I must admit, there's still very much the thinking of geographical silos in Europe, selfish. So this is my money, and I will not give it to anyone. So using this Article 60, where it gives the opportunity to have 15% or collaborate, is still very limited. And the point is that we have responded in observatory letters. So the Commission reacts to like with the first assessments how we feel about it, and this is one of the elements that we have underlined, that we would like to be more ambitious in the terms of collaboration to really exploit our European Union potential, and this old-fashioned, very, I would say even digressive thinking of it's my money is still pertinent in the documentation that we have received. So it might strike some people. At the level of the declarations, it's fine. Then at the level of documentation, it's less when it comes really to how I want to spend money. And then it's even probably worse at the level of implementation when we really need this collaboration and to open to enterprises to be participants in creating the visions how the regions should develop. This is as well something which, of course, there are different regions, more advanced and less advanced. But in general, we are looking from south to north. It is in general, I would say, 80% is still thinking in this way. So this is a challenge for us, the Commission, particularly in this financial perspective, when we are going to assess the operational programs and partnership agreements, to convey the message that it's not anymore as it used to be. We want the collaboration, and we want the participation of enterprises. And this is a challenge for us as Commission as well.
So you will push for more cooperation in the regional programs?
We have no choice as
yes.
the European Union. We have no choice. I mean, this shows the global. Where it was mentioned here many times that we are living in global. Well, value chain can be the fantastic example. Even part of the value chain where we are specializing can be in China, and you have $30 for shipping.
But the share you can use outside the program area has actually increased in the negotiations from 10%, which was the proposal, to 15%, which is a positive sign at least.
It is positive. There were suggestions to put a minimum, so that there is, because right now we have maximum, which means that you can have zero. Unfortunately, minimum didn't pass. No?
Okay. Can I ask you to continue a bit, but in relation to the programs, yes. How you see that?
So, if you allow me,
yes.
it will better structure the.
Yes.
First of all, I find it fantastic that after 8 hours of we are still here and there are so many people. I really, it's unbelievable that it means. Here. It means that there's great interest in the topic. Let me. I was asked to say something. I will be very quick and not try to make it boring. But I was asked to say something about Horizon 2020. As you maybe remember from what I said in the morning, 72 billion euro in perspective 2014-2020 to be invested in research and development and in industry from direct management from the European Commission. But here and this I would emphasize European Structural Investment Funds and Horizon 2020. We are as close as close as the DG Regio with DG Research is working right now. It probably, as far as heard from my older colleagues, it has never happened. We are really trying to find the complementaries and synergies between these two spendings. Because altogether it is 80 plus 72, more or less 150 billion euro, incredible amount of money to have an impact. So we cannot fail it. Is this okay? Yeah. So just to remind about the priorities of Horizon 2020, it's first of all excellence in science. Excellence in science. So still the European Union is very strong in the science, but in order not to lose our leading position in the world, we need to support world-class excellence. But what comes in this perspective is the fostering industrial leadership to support businesses, including small and business enterprises, fostering leadership in industry. This what is very often shown, that we are leaders in science, but we don't translate it into the efficiently productive into the market, and tackling societal challenges that are identified in Europe 2020, like climate change, aging, energy efficiency. Having said so, more in this financial perspective, more for fundamental research, financing talents in a very European-wide competitive way. So we want to support the best of the best in Europe. And future emerging technologies, whenever it comes to shorten the way from idea to the market. More for innovation through different schemes, as I said. And then there are sorry, this no, because it's different. Yeah. It doesn't.
It doesn't. Yeah. Oh, there at least.
Yes, sir.
Det funkar på skärmen där bara.
Yeah, okay. Just. Oh, it's good. Okay. Anyway, just to shorten, I encourage you to look at the regulation, which is still not adopted. So you will have more there in details. I want to pass to this slide, and this is about the synergies between Horizon 2020 and European Structural Investment Funds. As you can see from the okay, we can finance very much upstream from European Structural Investment Funds, like infrastructure, so that it can be used in the Horizon 2020 to improve excellence and to work from the whole value chain. Many of you are familiar with the technology, the ninth step of technology readiness level. And through all this, through demonstration, pilot lines, and commercialization, proof of concept, this can be fine. And then it comes again our thematic objective 3 for supporting SMEs and uptake of the ideas for the commercial use. So as you can see, this is sort of an integrated approach where we can use 150 billion euro in a way which can complement. And why this is what's here important at the very much in designing phase, where the contact points for Horizon 2020 national contact points should work very closely with the national managing authorities or regional managing authorities to find out where the synergies and complementaries can be found, so that we finance in Horizon 2020 the elements which can complement smart specialization or enrich smart specialization strategy. This is something very important. And here the novelty is Article 55.8. Combination of all funding can happen, and particularly so we can have combinations of different financial instruments, which wasn't possible up to now. As usual, devil lies in details, and you can talk how we can finance the project, how we can finance finance the program from the different funds. This is going to be further explained in a guide on synergies, where we point by point will show how it can be combined. Given that the regulations are still being adopted, the guide is not public yet. But then we will go into details, and I will encourage you then later to go on the website of DG Regio, where you can find how we give a guidance how you can use both ESIF and Horizon 2020. The only thing which I can tell now in very general, it seems that the financing of one project from two funds will be very complicated still from the very procedural points of view, administration, accounting, but having this in a parallel way or sequential way, in all integrated strategic approach is possible. So for this reason, I think there is one element which we will strike: the money from Horizon from European structural investment funds are not going to replace national funds in order to finance the Horizon 2020. Yeah? So we don't want to use public money in order to use public money. It's not our purpose. And I think this is at this stage main message. For the rest, this will come, and in the guidance there will be more details. Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Encouraging when it comes to synergies between funds and using different funds, a bit worrying perhaps when it comes to complicated administrative procedures still. Okay, we've discussed using other kind of funds, not normally or so much used for cooperation so far, but probably the interregional programs going across borders will still be a very important source, probably. Jason Martinez, you come from the Interreg 4C,
yes,
present, Interreg Europe
in the future.
Yes. Please, welcome to make a presentation about
So,
the program.
my thing is not working now.
You need to here.
So thank you first of all to the conference organizers for inviting the Interreg 4C program to explain where we are heading for the future. First, I would like to say a few words about where we are right now with the Interreg 4C program. And we move from cross-border and transnational cooperation to interregional cooperation. This means that the Interreg 4C program is the only European territorial cooperation program that covers the whole territory of the European Union. The 27 member states, in the future it will be Croatia as well, plus Norway and Switzerland. The total allocation of funds is 302 million euros, and through 4 calls we have financed 204 projects. Thank you. So you see the whole territory. The Interreg 4C program in a nutshell is learning by sharing. We put together regions from all over Europe where regional and local stakeholders work for 2-3 years in order to solve a common problem by identifying good practices, transferring them, and eventually this will lead to the improvement of regional and local policies. There are 2 thematic priorities: innovation and knowledge economy, and environment and risk prevention. But coming to innovation, under the innovation, research and technology development topic, we have 37 projects. 21 of them deal directly or indirectly with clusters, and 3 of them are working on smart specialization strategies. One of them with the region Skåne involved in the partnership. These are some of the results from the 37 innovation projects. These results have not been updated yet, but here you can see that nearly 800 staff members from the participating organizations have improved their capacity. 37 practices have been successfully transferred, and 57 policies have been improved. Also, in the Interreg 4C program, we have a capitalization program. These 2 publications have been recently been made available. One of them is on innovation systems, and the other one on innovation capacity of SMEs. So I encourage you to check them in our website. But what might be more important for you is what will be the future interregional cooperation program that will be called Interreg Europe. This is where we are right now. Everything is under condition for final approval from the member states. The operational program is being finalized before public consultation, and the first call is expected to be at the end of year 2014, beginning of 2015. As Marek said this morning, the whole European Union strategy is based on the EU 2020, based on these 3 pillars, and this has a translation into regulations for the future in 11 thematic objectives. This is an important evolution because cohesion policy was based on 3 objectives, and this will be transformed now into 2 goals. Goal number 1, investment, growth and jobs, and number 2, European territorial cooperation, which gives relevance and protagonism to the European territorial cooperation, even though financially it's only 3% of the total budget. But at least it's included in one of the 2 pillars for the future cohesion policy. But coming to the interregional cooperation, the draft regulation says that Interreg Europe will take over the Regions of Knowledge program. You know, this is the program that was working for fostering the interregional cooperation of clusters in Europe. And more important, it's asking to the future program to have a direct link to the cohesion policy by improving the implementation of the operational programs. So this is also an important change. The program has selected 4 thematic priorities. Again, as this morning Marek told us, this thematic concentration, but focusing on thematic objective 1, strengthening research, technological development and innovation, including the cluster policy. These will be the main thematic objectives of the future program. The 2 types of actions that the program will put forward in order to reach its objectives will be interregional cooperation projects and policy learning platforms. The interregional cooperation projects will be very similar to the projects that we have right now. This means to put together regions from all over Europe, the relevant stakeholders, local and regional stakeholders, that want to address a policy issue, to work together for 2-3 years in order to develop an action plan for each region. There will be a second phase where the program will monitor the results of how these regions are putting the implementation plan, action plans into action. And we expect to co-finance around 200 projects with average 1.6 million euros in ERDF funding, and with an average partnership of 8 partners. So here you have the two phases of the implementation. The first one to exchange experience, and then to put the action plans that will have to receive funding from other sources. This will be new, the policy learning platforms, again, new platforms in the future, that will have the main objective of ensuring the policy learning process across Europe. We want the program to be more open, to involve regions and stakeholders that are not directly involved in the projects, but also to contribute to the EU-wide capacity building by extracting the best practices from the projects and making these good practices available to all the European regions. The policy learning platforms will be embodied by these two elements. First of all, an online collaborative tool where we want a community to exchange experiences, and also an expert team that will coordinate each policy learning platform. There will be one platform per thematic objective. This means that there will be four policy learning platforms. Both actions complement each other. The policy learning platform will enrich the interregional cooperation projects that will also give feedback to the policy learning platforms. To put you an example, you know that the Smart Specialization platform in Sevilla, it's working now on methodologies and process. The policy learning platform for the future Interreg Europe program will want to go deeper into the practical implementation of the investment for growth and jobs national and regional programs to better implement the operational programs in the regions. So we can imagine an area like the Baltic Sea region that, as they said before, proximity is still important, but sometimes we have to go to other areas in the European Union to find solutions. And so if the Baltic Sea region wants to cooperate with other macro regions in Europe or other areas in Europe, the Interreg Europe program will be there to help you. So here you have information about our website, the social networks, and also I encourage you to see the new web documentary that is available online in Changing Regions EU in order to learn more about the type of projects that we are currently financing in Interreg 4C. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. We will actually directly go over to another financing instrument. Marta, welcome from the Baltic Sea Region Program Joint Secretariat, which is the financer of the BSR Stardust, and actually the financing program of the majority of the projects implementing the Baltic Sea strategy, isn't that? About the future.
Exactly, Ulf. I do not have to mention that actually Ulf would be a more appropriate person to talk about it, as he's a member of a joint programming committee of our program. But using this opportunity, actually I promised you to be brief, so I actually could say that what we will finance in the future in one sentence. Everything what you were talking about today. So, we were there for all these years to listen and also to learn from our projects, to draw on experiences. So actually this is how I could summarize. Of course we can go into details. There are many challenges that are in the Baltic Sea region as such, and those are all these different levels of innovation performance or large societal challenges that are troubling not only our region but are important in our region. There are differences in research and innovation infrastructure in different countries. How we can effectively use mechanism of knowledge transfer from research to market, and there are of course, also great potentials, the potential of combining competences in a smart way in the Baltic Sea region, potential of using more non-technological innovation in areas like social or cultural, creative industries, or promoting more organizational innovation. So what our program is trying to do, will try to do in the future, it's creating certain framework conditions for innovation. We will try to do this for research and innovation infrastructures, where we would work with actors that are developing mechanisms for those platforms, where we would like to propose incentive and funding schemes that those platforms are better addressing needs of the users and so on. We would also put the second pillar of our program would be smart specialization. Working with smart specialization means for us two aspects. It is working with smart specialization strategies as such to build capacity of regions to be able to develop and maintain, implement the smart specialization strategies. But what is more important is this implementation of the strategies through building alliances that are based on different competences in the region. This is actually, I would not go into more details because we are talking about it actually whole day. So for us, BSR, actually StarDust project is an example of an approach that could be applied in the future program. What we would also try to do to give a chance to regions that are lagging behind in technological development and also utilize possibilities of non-technological innovation. So it will be one of, this will be third pillar of our actions. We mean here services for society. We mean also services that are based on open innovation, that services that are based on user needs. But what if you allow me still a few seconds, I would also like to mention tools by which we are trying to deliver our program this time, because we heard a lot about these challenges that such transnational cooperation is causing. And what we would like to do is for sure to change our approach, so how we do it. For sure, we would like to go for something like two-step approach in our calls for proposals, meaning we first would like to get a sketch of an idea and not to ask everybody to develop in detail applications. So first to work on the sketch of ideas and being able to advise and have a good dialogue to develop applications, and then only ask for full versions of applications. What we also talked about today, it was more flexibility, more process orientation. So flexibility, by this we mean that we need to allow project implementation to better address needs of and changing needs. So in that sense, changes in the project should be made simpler. New partners could be taken on board, for example, during project implementation. What we also talked about today, it was allowing ideas to be mature. So we need more time. It's not enough to have a main, often it's not enough to have a main stage of a project. Would be good that certain processes are started with seed money, or are started with when they continue and when they bring good results, like the examples here, that they could be awarded certain extension stage to implement further their activities. I don't have to mention multi-level governance, how important it is to work with different levels of governance, and we will try to put special emphasis on this part. And something that is very important, like, so with whom we are trying to work, working with private partners. They will be allowed and they will be able to receive funding from our program in this programming period. To get all these actions streamlined, we talked about it a lot, we would also see possibility, and we would very much look into clustering of projects. So not only projects working on single topics, but we would like to see them cooperate to bring added value by exchanging experiences and drawing on that. So those would be the main aspects of the program. And like for the implementation, I think the time schedule would be similar to the program, to the Interreg Europe program, and we would go for public consultation of our program in spring 2014, and with implementation after that.
Thank you very much. So, a number of efforts to actually try to answer some of the demands here of flexibility and more easier procedures, etc. We're glad to hear that. We will stretch your patience a bit longer, but it's worth a while because I would like to welcome Alexander Schenk from the European Investment Bank, a very important player when it comes to investments in the region, and perhaps a next step after having had projects in these programs. Or
yes, exactly.
I will let
but
you.
I'm happy to hear that the Central Baltic will already take care of the financing for your higher ambitions in the future. So my name is, could you be so kind just I'm from the European Investment Bank. The European Investment Bank was funded in 1958 by the Treaty of Rome. It's considered to be the house bank of the European Union. We are owned by the member states, so we currently have 27 owners, and our seat is in Luxembourg. Yeah, and how do I, okay, use this. Yeah, as, well this is, yeah. As you can see, I don't know why it looks like that, but our central business is lending, of course, but I would like to come back first to the central questions that have been asked. In particular, there is some like irritation, at least from my side, with regard to the technical term financial instruments, and there might be a bit of confusion what we mean when we talk about financial instruments, because sometimes I have the feeling financial instruments is used in this context more as financing source, a source of financing, whereas speaking truly technical financial instruments as put down in the regulations, they are revolving instruments more or less funded by EU money, by structural funds, in order to be used as either debt or equity investments. So there's currently, and there I must say in the future programming period, there's a lot better possibilities and a more flexible possibility to use these revolving funds. Currently, they're just used on the centralized level, but in the future, it would be possible for managing authorities to construct their proper individual financial instrument that suit their region best. That's just one part, just to make that clear. Well, with regard to the tools of the European Investment Bank, what they can fix, well, like the main tool of the European Investment Bank is lending. We are a big lender. With regard to the other supranational lenders, if you look at the loan book, we are by far, far, far the biggest lender. So if you want to lend money, you're happy to contact us. There is a little bit of caveat. We normally just lend money to big projects. That is plus 25 million something. With regard to smaller projects, we have framework loans that we conclude. Then we go via intermediate banks or other intermediate organizations, and then we channel loans to smaller projects as well. But there has been, and with regard to your ambitions, and I think that was very nice, we did finance already via lending some projects, but that's mostly the bigger infrastructure projects, the electricity grids between like Finland and the Baltic states, Sweden and the Baltic states, Via Baltica, Rail Baltica. Those are typical projects that are financed by the EIB. There has, and I really like the methanol project there, where shipping are replacing their motorization with to be propelled by methanol, and of course, like if Stena Lines would consider if this works out, this Potter project, and Stena Line, for example, wants to replace their fleet or renovate their fleet, this would also be a classical project that we would be very happy to look at for financing. But there has been a bigger change now, and for the EIB, change is something special. As we are that big, we are more or less a supertanker. You could put that negatively, that we are very slow in moving, in changing direction. You could also try to formulate that more positive, meaning that we bring with us a very, very large momentum to things. So the change is that we consider us not only to be lending, but we try to have three more heads, and that is lending, blending, and advising. Lending is the classical loan portfolio that I talked about, to a certain degree via our daughter, the European Investment Fund, also equity participations. Blending, that has already happened with the existing financial instruments on the centralized level, where we combine EU loans with EIB loans with EU grants. We even have some special loan instruments, the RSFF, so-called RSFF facility, where we use EU funds as a first loss pieces for loans, so that even for rather risky loans with a high credit risk, we use funds from the European Union to insure ourselves against the first loss, so that we can still be able to lend money. The third point is the advising sector. We have built up, and that's where I work currently in the IB advising service department. This is completely new. We have always given advice, always technical assistance. From the 2,000 staff in the EIB, approximately 200 are dealing with advisory, rendering technical assistance. And this will increase more. Last year when I rejoined the EIB, I was the first person in my unit, and now we are already 7, when we have open posts for 20 more, so we are trying to really trap up this advisory sector for the bank. And what I always try to focus, to underline, we do not lend taxpayers' money. This is not taxpayer, this is money that we get on the capital markets and then lend on. So we are a non-profit organization, but of course we have some costs when raising these monies on the capital market, and they are of course passed on with a slight add up for our costs. Now, the sense of this lending, blending, and advising is that they kind of hang together. So we have currently these centralized financial instruments that might be very interesting for you, and we will try to develop even further and be very active in further developing these financial instruments on a decentralized level. With regard to the advising, we currently more or less try to advise with regard to the projects that we finance, that these projects are better, but we have even moved out to a pure advisory service and building up this, where we advise without taking any regard to our financing possibilities. We have Chinese walls built up there, but we do have, as I said, about 200 staff, which are engineers, technicians, and structural managers, structural financiers that we can advise in bringing up special solutions for special problems. Well, the rationale of these advisory services that we try to have the people spend their money more intelligent. We have sometimes, and particularly in some regions of the Union, we see that there are monies available to be spent on projects that are necessary, but this doesn't happen. So by stepping in and advising on how to prepare the projects, how to do the pre-feasibility studies and things like that, we try to help the member states and in the interest of the EU to get things moving on the ground. Our clients, well, that's mostly public sector, but private sector can also be our clients, but these are particularly in less developed capital markets. We advise like private banks or private financial institutions to develop on that. We provide our advisory service either by our own staff, these 200 people, and we have a lot of external consultants, so that we manage these external consultants, starting from the call of tender for that, quality control, and even the evaluation. We do fund the funding for these advisory service, as this is not directly connected to our lending, is either that we take fees, we get grants, we use commission money, we have our own, we step in with our own contribution, just set aside a certain amount of our surplus to advisory service, and we have developed specifically for some member states, particularly that have a lot of difficulties now, Greece, for instance, a special advisory service where we then will refinance, we step in and provide the services, and we refinance it by hopefully by some increase in the lending margin for future projects that will hopefully be the result of our technical assistance there. Now, the priorities of these advisory service is innovation and skills, is access to finance, is the strategic infrastructure, and is the resource efficiency. We do it both within the EU and outside the EU. And with regard to the time, I would like to step on and give you 3 concrete examples of new initiatives that derive from this policy change. And the first one is a technical platform for financial instruments. The idea here is that we want to help anybody who's interested and eligible to make financial instruments, which could be a program or a managing authority, to design, to set up, to implement these financial instruments. As we have a vast experience with centralized financial instruments, which we have designed in close cooperation with the Commission, we think that we would also have the possibility to add some value here to develop financial instruments more on the local level, the regional level, with those managing authorities interested. This technical assistance platform will be applicable to all member states and will consist of a training, networking within this region, and hopefully is that the benefit is for the member states that they can use these new, because we consider these financial instruments that are revolving for a smarter way to spend grant money, because although some of these revolving instruments will get lost during the course of the business because there are some losses to be occurred in debt financing, nevertheless a lot of money will flow back. It can be reused and reused and reused. The second new initiative is the RDI advisory. This is advisory that we do financed by the Commission and co-financed by us, that we have 3 pilot projects that we try to finance with regard to the financial structure to ensure that they get the finance in place in a timely manner and in a sustainable manner. One of these projects is just around the corner. It's the European Spallation Source. That what we do finance, we will most probably, we're helping them to structure their finance. This is it's a big project, classical finance by public funds, but public funds have the disadvantage that they come in annual installments, often by the member states, but in particular the construction costs, they are very, very high in the beginning, so we try to structure or build up a financing facility that levels out this difference between the income and the costs. And now the third one might be the most interesting. We have just last week the internal management, or the management of the EIB has approved this new initiative, the EIB Danube Strategy Technical Assistance Facility. And the idea is to support, in particular, cross-border projects, and the preparation of cross-border projects within the Danube region. It's in particular also targeting the very, very early stage, pre-feasibility strategies, so that like for the way until application maybe to the applicable programs. We are currently discussing a memorandum of understanding with regard to cooperation on all macro-regional strategies with the European Commission, and of course the content of such would also play a role in this initiative. And this initiative is also the very first time that we, as European Investment Bank, step in with our own money, putting in 1.5 million, giving us the possibility to finance like 10 bigger assignments of 150,000 euro each, but without having from the start a matching contribution from any other source. Normally we never ever did that before, that we just step in with financing without having a matching contribution either from a member state or the Commission or whatever. So this time we step in with that because we think it is very important, and particularly for the Danube region, to get going fast, to develop projects. So now we have these internal okay for this going on with that. We of course would like to see matching contributions from either member states or the transnational programs for the Danube region or the Commission, but we would nevertheless will continue with that even without any of such matching contributions. Of course, we have just started. We still need the okay of the member states, which are the final things. Well, and actually that's a good timing that we got, because it is at the end
Thank you.
there.
Thank you very much. And a commitment there in the Danube macro-regional strategies, but we didn't see anything about the Baltic Sea macro-regional strategy.
That's true.
That might be a question.
That might be a question, yes, and it's a very good question, but that has a bit to do with your ambitions, and particularly that you are already, or the Baltic Sea is further developed. So, and it's of course the political pressure. We don't come up with such an idea out of scratch, but we are asked to do something and then we react. Either the Commission asking, or our owners, the member states asking and saying, please can you help us and step in? And then we normally do react, which can give you a hint that if you... Okay, I'll leave it at that.
We haven't asked. The question is, have you asked, or will you ask now? We'll open the floor for questions, final questions, late in the day, but have you... Yes, one there. Anyone having a microphone, or no?
Does it work? Yes.
Yeah.
I have a question to Jason Martinez about the Interreg Europe program. I was very intrigued by the last sentence that you said, if the BSR wants to cooperate with other macro regions, such as the Danube region, Interreg Europe would be available. What sort of funding could you give us, or for what sort of projects would there be Interreg Europe? Would it be more a horizontal learning platform, or more one of those interregional cooperation projects?
I would say that the Baltic Sea region would be able to to use both types of activities. But then for cooperating during 2-3 years with other regions, the interregional cooperation projects would be the best solution available. This will give these regions to cooperate with other areas in Europe, like the Danube macro region, and draft an implementation plan and come back and develop this implementation plan, and maybe develop new projects through the cross-border or transnational cooperation. So it's going outside of a restricted geographical area like the Baltic Sea region in order to exchange with other regions, and in a second step, draft new projects within the close neighboring regions. The policy learning platforms will be more a resource to help the practical implementation of the operational programs of the regions. There will be, of course, also thematic events. Maybe the experts managing the thematic platform, the policy learning platforms, will decide to open specific thematic calls. So yeah, both instruments will be suitable for the Baltic Sea region.
So a possibility to connect between regions. Yes, we had a question there as well.
Yes, my name is Alain Rogerie, and I am working for the European Commission as advisor for the macro-regional strategy. I would like just to point the two ways to clarify the way to work outside the area of eligibility of a program would be or to use this flexibility that was mentioned about the 15%, concerning the RDF, it would be different for other funds, or to use cooperation program, as was just mentioned now. But I would like just to inform the audience that I feel a risk on what was presented as a cooperation component. And I will prepare a document for tomorrow morning that you can find on the table. Because the cooperation component is something that you can use in whatever program, even not EU funded, that just make explicitly eligible the cost that you have to bear as a beneficiary of the program for cooperation process. So this means that allow cooperation between beneficiary pertaining to different programs. Thank you.
So more information, clarification about the transnational component tomorrow then by Alain. Any final question? Show of hands, yes.
Continuing a little your joke about Baltic. Everybody knows that Baltic is somewhere between developing and developed seas regions. Everybody knows how far from developing, but do you know how near to developed? How much money we need to be really satisfied? For instance, for 2 years. For instance, for 10 years.
How much money is necessary to develop throughout? Any comment? We have...
So I would put this actually answer a bit differently. It depends how we use the money we have. So we talk here often about different financing instruments, but for me the key for this answer is not how much, but how well we will integrate it. So this would be my answer to the question.
How well we integrate the money, and any other comment?
Well, if I look back how the strategy started, one of the cornerstones, and I think a very important one, was these 3 no's, which then became the 3 yes, no, new money, and yes to the alignment of funds. And that might also be a region that we do not have a TA facility for the Baltic Sea region, is that it is not really needed because there is like a lot of money around to fulfill the purposes. It just really needed to be maybe be spent in a more intended way.
So it's a question of how to spend it rather than how much for everybody. Okay, thank you. The hour is late. Could I ask you just a 10-second reflection on if you would give an advice to the audience? You have seen them present their projects and corporations during the day. If you would give an advice how to proceed, what is the most important to go on with the cooperation in the coming years? From your different points of views, Pontus, could I start with you?
Well, I think the fact is that we must realize that Europe as whole is facing a challenge. And should we be prosperous in the future, we actually need to cooperate. At the same time that we are facing this challenge, we should also realize that we have excellent opportunities. So I think it's a little bit out there, do the work, cooperate, and then we probably will fix it.
One very concrete advice is just to emphasize what's just been said about the cooperation component. Make sure the cooperation component of being able to use 15% of your structural funds outside the geography, make sure it is written into your operational programs around the Baltic Sea. Then we can be able to combine the funds to collaborate more.
So influence those who decide about the programs.
Yes.
My answer would be more stars in BSR. So working with levels of governance, working with cross-sectorality and smoothing processes.
In my case, I would say that today we have seen incredible results from cross-border transnational cooperation, very inspiring ideas, and this could be Interreg Europe a new opportunity to bring these ideas, these experiences, these initiatives to other regions in Europe, and also to receive knowledge from these other regions in return. That's why the new Interreg Europe will be for.
Well, I would just say, and this echoes a bit, early involvement now with regard to the operational programs, very early contacts with the managing authorities to get them on board how the money is spent. And if there is a need, early contact to us as well.
So be active, influence. Great, thank you.
All right. While these people are coming off the stage, I'm going to call 5 people up to make their move towards the stage, and then I'm going to try to accomplish a 3-minute concluding session with 3 things on the agenda. So I'd ask for Hugo, Lotten, Kerstin, Henrik, and who am I missing here? Johanna. You 5 make your move up to the stage here, please. And also Sophie and Christine. While they're making their way up on the stage, my first item of business is a little bit of a conclusion from the day. You got to hear all about what we've been doing the past 3 years with StarDust and this first major milestone with BSR Stars. There seems to be a rationale and a demand, not just from the civil servants and the researchers, and not just from the analysis showing that it works, but also from the businesses. We've shown results. And it seems that we've done some good things, and we've been given kind of the checks from the experts that we're doing things in the right direction, and we've gotten some tips on improving those things going forward. And also the financial programs going forward, it seems like there are some opportunities there that we can take advantage of, and we're encouraged to do that. And we say thank you very much, and we will continue working and hopefully in the right direction in the future. Item number 2 on the agenda is to say thank you to some very important people. The core of all of the work have been these teams, these transnational teams. And you've gotten to see their stars shine and their pitches on what they want to work on in the future. And they have been doing so much work. And the leaders of these transnational teams are standing in front of you, and they have been doing a fantastic job of melding and moving people and getting them to work together, and we want to say a huge thank you to them. So Karin has a small little gift for you each. So the leader of we have the leader of Mobile Vikings, Henrik Lundblad, and of Active for Life, Hugo, and of Comfort and Living, Lotten, and of Clean Water, Johanna, and of Marchain, Kerstin. These are our stars. And then 2 ladies who've been standing in the background working their little butts off. A special thank you to Christine Skiera and Sophie Lehmann, who've been working with the conference organizing. And the final item of business, announcements. Okay, you have dinner waiting for you, where we had lunch. It is on its way. The coat check will be unmanned. It will be manned until 7 o'clock, and then it will be closing. So suggest that you get your coats and things before you leave. Before I let you leave and to go and enjoy and celebrate our wonderful day, tomorrow is more of a working day. We have some folks from the Smart Specialization Platform in Sevilla, Jens Servik and Ingo Mietkendahl. Where's Ingo? Jens just stood up, and Ingo, these two right here. They will be leading some workshops in these three different, there's an open session, there's a session on smart cities, and there's a session on e-health. And so tomorrow we'll be working on launching ideas, how we can work together transnationally in these areas, and working on these ideas more concretely. And if you have any questions about tomorrow, turn to them. We will see you tomorrow, but for tonight, we need to celebrate our success and a wonderful day. And you had something else to say? Okay. So Karin will release us when she's done.
I have two things to say. I want Emily, could you please take these flowers? Thank you for doing a great job today. Thank you. Thank you. And I have one more thing, though, which we always misses, but I think they need some flowers as well. Lennart and Inger, maybe you can come up and take these flowers, because I think you deserve them. You have never got any money from StarDust, but you managed anyway. Very much. Thank you. And now it's time for dinner and buffet and to talk to each other. Thank you.